Every day we have is a gift. Each day I strive to be joyful and happy. Let's appreciate every moment. Let's find happiness together and make it a daily practice. My hopes are to use my education, personal awareness, and network to empower, engage, and motivate you and me to live a happier life as we turn the page to our next chapter. This is where I enter. On today's program, Dr. Reeves is joined by Dr. Brenada Baker, Winter, and your viewer feedback. Stay tuned for the next chapter with Dr. Reeves. Joining us again today is Dr. Brenada Baker. She's here to help me further the conversation about letting go and breaking free from fear. Stay tuned. As you all know, I've been on this journey for quite some time now, really just trying to figure out some things for myself. And I've had the opportunity to meet with several therapists and psychologists along the way. So I'm hoping that not only my story helps me, but it helps you as well. So that's the purpose of the show, Next Chapter with Dr. Reeves. So thank you for tuning in and joining me. On our previous episode, we had the wonderful Dr. Brenada Baker join me, and she really helped me understand some things. So if you missed that episode, go to www.nextchapterwithdrreeves.com and check out the episode with Dr. Brenada Baker and I. But one of the things I really wanted to talk about today is really letting go of the fear and breaking fear. Not fear one has of flying, or fear that you may have if you're faced with a lion, but fear really of not being a victim, Dr. Baker. That's what I really want to talk about today and kind of dive into. So kind of give me a little bit of time to kind of bring this out as I'm taking a lot of the strategies that you gave me on the last episode, and I watched it several times, and I'm so grateful to God for you, because a lot of the discussion that we had, I've really been looking for those answers most of my life. And what I really didn't understand is why this was happening to me, and you broke it down so eloquently, and I began to understand some things. And what I do understand is that the trauma has led me to this point right now in my life. I really didn't understand that. But watching that episode and you kind of breaking it down, well, you broke it down, Dr. Baker. You broke it down, and I really appreciate you putting it in a simple form. So today I really wanted to talk about the fear of not wanting to stay a victim. And what I mean by that, I think that a lot of people know their situation, but they don't know how to come out of the situation. So we've been conditioned to be victims. Does that make sense?
It definitely makes sense.
Okay, now let me read to you some of the notes I have, because I wanted to make sure I got this. I believe that I've suffered from that in a way that letting the people that have control over me, keep that control, because I feel obligated based on my experiences. I'm almost trading myself in to make them feel better. Does this make sense?
It does. It definitely does.
Can you talk to that a little bit?
Well, number one, thank you again for having me back. I greatly appreciate it. It's always an honor and a privilege and a pleasure just to be here with you and just to have this topic. When you talk about, not wanting to be a victim and the fear that's associated with it, you have to think about whatever the trauma was that you suffered, or whatever the abuse was that you suffered, there was a part of you that was silenced. And so as you grow, again, my tagline is that broken little girls and broken little boys grow up to become broken grown men and broken grown women. And so that part of you that has been conditioned to remain silent that's become a part of your identity. And so trying to unravel that means that you have to go all the way back and dig that up. And again, most people don't want to do that. And if you weren't comfortable doing it as a child, there's no way that you're just going to jump into being comfortable as an adult and being able to just immediately unravel that. It's a process, and it's a process of discovery. And in order to discover that, if you were doing some gold mining or gardening, you got to dig up the dirt. You got to, you got to pluck it from the root. And so that's the same thing with trying to uncover that fear and get to the bottom of it.
And I think as I was trying to understand myself, the fear of not wanting to stay the victim, but also part of that protecting piece that Mr. Hayes talked about, I feel like I'm still protecting. You know what I'm saying? So the fear would be, do the steps and the strategies and the therapy to not be the victim, discovering a whole new self.
And trauma makes you want to protect the perpetrators of abuse, right? So that's the innocent.
See, I didn't understand that.
Yeah,
right?
That's the innocent little girl in you that still wants to understand the perpetrator of abuse. Like, why did they do that to me? Or they're really not that bad of a person, but they did what they did.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you've never been taught and empowered to put yourself first, then you will continue to try to protect your perpetrator of abuse to the best of your ability until somebody has told you or taught you that it's okay for you to acknowledge your truth and to be perfectly fine with how those who were the perpetrators of abuse receive it. They are not your responsibility. And until you take ownership for the fact that you are responsible for you and you're the only one that you need to protect, then and only then can you truly release that fear of trying to cover up their stories. But when you've been taught to mask it for so long, that's what you know. And masking the fear is much more comfortable than unmasking it.
Dr. Baker, I think I'm stuck right there. I think that's where I'm stuck.
And it's okay for you to be stuck
I think
right
I'm
there.
stuck right there.
It's not an overnight strategy, right? You still have to process, because regardless to what a person has done to you, if they're family members or people that you once had a relationship with or were in love with, or just if you're a person with humanity and compassion, you still have some type of symbolism of care and concern for people. And so it's okay for you to be stuck there, because that's the part of you that shows your humanity. And so you understand on some level that hurting people hurt people, which is why the people have done what they've done. And so it's perfectly fine that you're not able to just jump in overnight. If it happened 20 years ago, it takes some time to really unravel those layers. And so being okay and feeling like you're stuck right there, that's part of the process. The process never feels good.
It doesn't.
It doesn't. And it gets worse before it gets better.
And I feel like I'm dying a slow death. I'm going to be honest with you. I feel like I'm dying, but as I'm dying, I'm beginning to live. But this is so painful on this other side, because for me, I love hard, you know what I mean? So for me to try to confront this head on with family members and myself, people have died and gone on, is very painful. And it's hard, I can talk about it all day long, but when I get by myself, especially at night, when my thoughts are with me and when I'm wrestling with myself, I keep saying, do I really want to do this?
It's a very lonely experience.
It is.
It's a very daunting experience.
It is.
And nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save you. And I like to say, you're gonna die one way or the other. Life's gonna kill you. So you can decide on which end of the opposite road that you want to die on.
Right.
Do you want to die knowing that you spoke your truth and you pursued your healing, or do you want to know that you died as a result of the dis-ease that manifested in your body because of all the secrets and all the masks that you kept hidden? And
I think for me, my heart goes out to, of course, I'm getting the therapy and the healing the best way I know how, but my heart goes out to the people that, first of all, have to stay a victim and they know they're a victim, but they don't understand how to come out of that. And I think that's what I'm really after, trying to use myself to help those people, because I've seen certain situations where people are victims, but there's no way out for them. They just have to stay in it. You know, for example, if you were abused by your dad, or sexually abused by a family member, and the family member is living in the household, you don't have any money, you can't go anywhere, they're there, and then you have another generation of family coming up in the household, and you're thinking, well, wait a minute, that little Johnny might get abused like I was abused 10 or 15 years ago, and it perpetuates itself over and over and over again.
Trauma.
Generational trauma. So I think for me, I'm after really helping the person that's really just stuck.
And there are so many people that are stuck.
And not really understanding how to get out, because I feel like so many people give up and they just accept it. You know what I mean?
They do. So many, and I don't know if they give up. I just think that, and for instance, using your situation, after you have unveiled yourself and you are naked with all your stories and your truths, you feel shameful. Like you can't expose this and not feel the shame. You can't expose this and not feel so vulnerable and questioning whether or not you did the right thing, right? And remember, there's still that little girl on the inside of you, or that little boy on the inside of you that's questioning whether or not you made the right choice. And then you're questioning everything. Why did I wait so long? Why didn't I speak out when it happened? What did I do to deserve this? And so all the variables, it's coming up. It's coming up and it's coming out. And so again, it's never an easy process, which is why so many people remain stuck. Because it's much easier to remain in a place that's uncomfortable, because you know what that level of comfortability looks like. You don't know what it looks like on the other side. And so it's painful. That's why people don't do their work. It makes perfectly good sense.
Okay.
You just go buy another handbag, go get another partner.
But Dr. Baker, that probably made sense to me before I knew, but it doesn't make sense to me now. You know what I'm saying?
Tell me why it doesn't make sense. Which part of it doesn't make sense?
Well, it doesn't make sense that somebody would not acknowledge or not go through the pain. Now that's just me. I have to, because like you said, the trauma will eventually come for you. It has come for me.
Knocking on your door.
It's knocking on my door. It has come for me. So now that I know, it's almost like now that when you know better, you do better. But there's so many people that don't know that they're in an abusive relationship, an abusive family. You know what I'm saying? I hope that I'm trying to explain it the way that I'm trying to understand it for myself. So my heart just goes out to people that can't address it, that don't know how to address it. And now that I know how to address it,
now you're shouting it from the mountaintop, right?
Dr. Baker.
You're like Dr. Martin Luther King out there. You are out there telling the people.
I'm telling them, get well soon.
Do your work.
Do your work on yourself.
Do your work.
Follow the program. Follow our episodes. We have people like Dr. Baker. We have other psychologists on. So stay with us. I beg you to do better, to seek help.
And Dr. Reeves, if I could just comment about that.
Yes.
When you say they don't know better, again, we know what we know based upon what we've been taught.
Okay, maybe I was trying to say
what
that.
We've been taught. And so when you think about family pathologies and what's been passed down, I am who I am because of how my grandmother showed up in the earth. I am who I am because of her poise and her posture and her, all of the things. Because she picked cotton. I am who I am because I understand, what the conversations I grew up around and those things. If all you know is dysfunction, then that's what you know.
That's what you know.
Until you have learned to do something else, that's all you really know. And everybody is not afforded that opportunity to have people sit at the table with them and talk about their truths. And
That's
oftentimes, it's the people that we love the most that have the most secrets that we don't want to talk about. And so it's the mama that's seated at the table. It's the dad. It's the grandfather.
Right.
It's the auntie.
Right. The gatekeepers.
It's the gatekeepers. It's the matriarchs of the family. And when you confront generational trauma, you are confronting your lineage, which means that everybody that's been a part of this has to be accountable, has to be held accountable. And so when you think about taking on that task, who wants to do that?
I see.
Who wants to embark upon that war?
I see.
A war that you've now created for yourself because you desire freedom.
But the thing about it, that I believe, it makes you a prisoner in your own body. I believe that.
I think it's about perspective.
Okay.
I think it's about perspective. If you feel like you're a prisoner, then that's what you're going to be.
Okay.
But if you feel like you are taking the steps that you need to take in order to become the trailblazing, generational curse breaker, the leader in the family, the one who's going to cut the trauma off from happening to your children and your children's children, your grandchildren, it's about perspective. So your mental place might be a battle, you know, emotionally.
Mm-hmm.
You might have those ebbs and flows
Right.
of your emotions, but that does not have to determine your posture as it relates to confronting your abuse.
I see.
Because that in itself will add another layer of guilt and shame to you if you take on that perspective. But if you've been conditioned to be the victim, then that is why you will feel like that, because you're fighting where you've been and what you know, and you're trying to get to the other side of what you don't know and who you're evolving into. And so it's a very interesting dichotomy.
I feel like I'm there. I feel like I'm right in the middle.
And it's consuming.
It is.
It requires a lot of emotional capacity that the average person doesn't have to lend to this kind of work.
I'm right there in the middle.
It's a hard place to be. Stuck between a rock and a hard place. It's a hard place to be. Think about the mothers who know that their husbands have molested their daughters or, you know, molested their sons. Think about the place that they sit in. So if you as my child confront me, that means that me as the mother, I have to confront why I decided to remain with my partner. Like, everybody's truth is on the table. And when we bear the skeletons, we would much rather prefer to burn those skeletons than to bear them and to expose those open wounds, which is why we take all of these secrets and everything else to the grave. Let's bury it rather than resurrect it. And you have started a revolution of resurrecting the truths and unveiling the mask and healing the scars and doing the work and dealing out, you know, cleaning out the infections of the wounds that have been caused and that has infiltrated itself into your body, into your heart, your mind. You can't experience trauma and think that it's not going to seep out into you, into your whole existence. Like, it doesn't matter where you live, who you partner up with, how much money you make. None of those things matter. What kind of titles and degrees you have. Trauma is trauma. Your tears are the same color as my tears. Your blood is the same color as my blood. Trauma is trauma. And it's no respecter of person. And the healing process is no respecter of person. And you grieve what you're going to lose as a result of acknowledging the trauma.
So, grieving what we're losing.
That's a whole nother layer.
That's what I'm going through.
That's a whole nother chapter. Like, in order for you to be healed, you might very well lose some family members. And they may not have been all that for you anyway. But the connection,
right.
You still had the connection. Now you're about to cut off the connection as a whole because they're not going to be able to deal with your truth. And so that's why you're walking this journey alone, and that's why it feels isolated, because it's a very isolated healing path.
And I feel, like you said, I feel like I'm grieving. Because I was trying to identify that emotion.
You don't feel like it. You are grieving.
I am.
You're grieving. When you think about the stages of grief, you go through denial. Is this really happening? Did I really expose this? You go through bargaining. Should I have done this? Did I do the right thing? You go through anger. Why did I allow this to happen? You go through acceptance. Okay, I'm here. You go through all of those feelings and you ebb and flow. It's not like you get to the stage of anger and then you're done. Okay, I passed that. No, you go from anger, you go back to acceptance, you go back to bargaining. Like, it's an ebb and a flow. It's an ebb and a flow. And you do that wave for as long as you have to until you're ready to go to the next level of your healing process. And you can't think that 5, 10, 15, 20 years of trauma, that's just going to go away in a year time. Like, you unpacking all kind of stuff.
And I don't want to rush.
You can't.
That's why I keep having you come back.
You can't. It's not going to allow you
I
to
don't
rush
want to
it.
rush. I don't want to rush.
I just want to celebrate you for being able to acknowledge that I am here. I'm here and I'm stuck. So you're showing us, you are a live illustration of the fact that, okay, I started talking about this and now I'm stuck. I've hit a plateau. I feel like I done hit a wall. because this is what it looks like.
Right.
It's not a straight line. I don't give my clients a plan for how we're gonna do this. No, we're gonna do it according to what happens as we unlayer, as we unveil the trauma. Because you don't know what's underneath the cover until you pull it back. You don't know what it looks like for peace to be still.
I don't.
Most people think that they can just move around in life, and that whatever their trauma is, that they've done enough, they've accomplished enough things, they've had enough children, time has passed, enough time has lapsed, that it's still there. It's like a shadow.
It is. And try to understand it and then begin to push it out. Before, I didn't know how to do that.
And let me help you with that.
Yes.
You don't have to try, just do it.
Okay.
Because try is insinuating that you're going to do it and you might fail.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong path to this. However it feels, feel it.
Okay.
You got to lean into it in all of the emotions.
Okay.
You probably will have more weepy days than you will have more days filled with laughter. The joy is going to come. It just might not show up in the morning, but it's coming.
I'm looking for it. Dr. Baker, before you leave, talk about 3 things that we can do to overcome fear, if you can give us 3.
3 things that you can do is definitely find you a trusted professional, someone that you can talk to. I am a resource, but you can also look on Psychology Today. There's so many, there's a plethora of resources out here. Oftentimes, people that don't have access to insurance, they don't take advantage of, providers. But really, it's the people that do have access to insurance that are not taking advantage of the services, because most people feel like, I don't need it. And you do need it. So acknowledging and then going to do something about it. So it's one thing to acknowledge it, but it's another thing to take that next step and to make that call. Also, let the shame go. Like, you're not responsible for what happened to you. You are not responsible for what happened to you. Once you release the shame, then you can really feel how you should feel, right? Because if you're carrying all this shame and guilt about what somebody else did to you, especially if you were a child, an innocent child, that blocks out every other feeling the feelings that really belong to you. Because that guilt and that shame, that's not yours.
Let the shame go.
Let the shame go.
Let the shame go.
Let the shame go. And the last thing I would say is demonstrate grace with yourself. Because I think that, as a woman, I'm my biggest critic. And I think we've learned how to be our biggest critics. You need grace for this kind of journey. You need grace to do this kind of work. And we need to be graceful and gracious to ourselves while you are undergoing one of the most life-altering healing processes that you probably will ever encounter.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Dr. Baker, thank you so much again.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for allowing me to be on this journey with you. I feel honored.
Thank you so much. You know what I mean? See, I want to get over there. On this journey, I wanted to incorporate meditation. Joining me today, Winter from I Am Winter Yoga and Meditation, to help me with this process.
First of all, thank you so much for having me, Tali. So I am Winter from I Am Winter Yoga and Meditation. I'm a holistic artist, educator, and vibrant entrepreneur, providing intentional spaces for practitioners to breathe, transform, and connect within themselves and with one another. And first, I would like to start off just by acknowledging you, Tali, and the amazing work you're doing right now into healing and restoration and to start that journey, because it is a big step to take. And I just wanted to acknowledge you for that, because it's not easy. Number one, to admit that, hey, like, there's some help here that I need. There's some spaces where I want to change and grow. So I just want to acknowledge you and acknowledge your journey with that.
Thank you. How does meditation help us with letting go and breaking free of fear?
Absolutely. And so one of the first things we need to understand is that meditation is not just that time or us trying to make our minds quiet, but it's really about becoming present with the self. It's that time and that space where we start to become familiar with our thoughts, familiar with our desires, familiar with our behaviors, any actions, our words, the way we share them with others, the words and conversations we have projected towards ourselves. So when we come into that space of meditation, that's really a moment in a time for us to become present with and for ourselves.
Our homework for this month is letting go of shame. Take some time to think about what you're ashamed of and let it go. Let it go. Check in with me and let me know how you're doing.
Today's program has been brought to you by Dr. Brenada Baker, psychologist, author, Empowering Excellence. Brought to you by Winter, I Am Winter, Yoga, Meditation, and Movement. Brought to you by Tarsha Gary, your Texas Realtor, vested in trust and value. Brought to you by Mortgage Dynamics, financing your dream investment. Brought to you by Silver Light Roofing Company, quality construction that knows your success is our success. Brought to you by Lucid Private Offices, located at 5718 Westheimer Road, Houston, Texas. Brought to you by Houston, are you ready to vote? Brought to you by Bob Tolley Productions.
This month, our community highlight takes us to Ecotone World's St. Charles Street Urban Community Garden and Orchard, located in the heart of 3rd Ward at 3616 St. Charles Street, Houston, Texas. Follow the garden at ecotoneworld.com. See you there.